My name is Nolan Sauve. This is my gym. I am a strongman competitor. I am currently Canada's under 200-pound champion for 2016. I've been competing for about 4 years now. When I was younger, I got into lifting weights for hockey. I was about 14 years old. And then once hockey was over, after I think when I turned 18, I started lifting weights more, and was watching a video on YouTube and seeing a guy lifting stones and flipping tires, and he was a smaller guy. And I thought, well, I could do that. From there, I just kind of started searching for more competitions. I watched a few live, but could never really track down one that I could enter. And then 2013, I found one in Regina, and I said, screw it, and I just went. It was really hard. Well, I looked at all the events. There's 5 events, and none of them were the ones I was good at or liked or had trained at all. But I started training about a month before, and then went out there and got 13th out of 15th, but then that kind of fueled the fire for my next competition. I recently just competed at the Calgary Fit Expo Strongman Classic in Calgary. I placed 4th in the heavyweight division. 2013, my second competition ever, I went and did Alberta's Strongest Man. I did the under 230-pound division, and I got 2nd place there. I went to the Alberta qualifier. Well, technically I didn't win nothing because I was the only 200-pound guy in there, but then I went to nationals. It was hosted in Quebec the very first year, and I ended up 3rd under 200 pounds for all of Canada.
Getting started here, this is Nolan Sauve. You can tell he doesn't look like a heavyweight. This guy maybe weighs 205 pounds today. As you can see, he's boogieing.
Waited for the next year and won 1st place. After I placed 1st in the under 200-pound division at Canada's, I was luckily invited to go to World's Strongest Man under 200 pounds, and that was hosted in Indianapolis. I only had 2 weeks to train, but gave it my all and ended up 8th out of 18 out of the world. I'm looking to go to Worlds again, but right now I have to qualify for Alberta's, and then after that qualify for Canada's, and then that would be, Worlds would be the next step. For 4 years that I've been competing, I've been doing mostly heavyweight shows, and I usually like to do a few of those a year before I do the lighter weight shows, it's harder, and I like competing with the big boys. Every competition is different. Usually there's 5 events, sometimes 6. Some days, or sometimes they go 2 days, where you'll do 5 events one day and then 5 events the next day. So it all depends on the promoter and what events they want to host. Usually there's 1 overhead. Most of them have Atlas stones. A lot of times they have grip events, but it's never the same. It's always different. So it's kind of nice to know what the events are a month prior, so you can just train those events. Sometimes you get surprised because they'll take out an event, like the Calgary Fit Expo. They had to pull the truck pull out because the promoters thought it was too dangerous, so they switched that last minute with the sandbag carry. So surprised a lot of guys, but sometimes you just gotta be ready for that. There's a lot of events where you only need to beat a person by an inch. If you carry something 200 feet and the next guy carries it 201, he beats you. Or in a deadlift, if you say you deadlift 700 and the next guy only has to go 705, that's all he's gonna do. You can save energy and you just gotta beat the guy by one. There's lots of strategy to it. I just think about all my little cues that I need to do, like, I don't know, the way I chalk up or how tight I have my belt or the way I normally do events. You just go through your head and you only focus on the event that you're doing right then and now. Can't worry about past events or the next one coming up. You gotta worry about the one you're doing. So you just go through your little cues and try and do your best. I ended up deadlifting 700 pounds, I believe, and then failed at 725.
Here's Nolan at 725 pounds. Here he goes. And him too.
But the 700 tied me for first. I'm usually pretty good at overhead pressing and the deadlift. I can always place pretty high in that. My worst event is the grip. Anything grip, farmer's carry or crucifix hold or stuff like that. One moment when the sandbag carry was over, and however you place in the event prior to the next one, that's how you go in order. So say I place first in the first event, then I get to go last in the next one. But they screwed up my score on the sandbag, and that kind of threw me off, so I had to go third when I should have been going near the end. But it's little things like that, you just gotta pull through and do what you gotta do. Since the beginning of my strongman career, I started working out at the farm here. Before that, my grandparents allowed me to work out in their basement. I had nowhere else to put all my equipment. I just got tired of trying to rush to the gym and only get an hour and then get kicked out of there. So I started buying all my own stuff, and from then on started building stuff that I needed for the different competitions. Everything I built is pretty unique, and lots of it has a little bit of history with me. Like, people give me their empty kegs or even drank a few of them. I've got a Husafell stone made out of steel. It was a friend, he gave me an old welding table and I used that and put it together. It saves a lot of money. I think most of my equipment is just materials I found around the farm and put together, because every piece of equipment can go pretty high in price to buy. I know most of the stuff goes upwards from 500 to 1,000, so me being able to make most of it really helps a lot. This is the shop and this is where I train. Let's check out some of the gear. I think one of my first pieces of equipment that I built was this yoke. Before this one, I had just plumbing pipe all screwed together and would carry that around. But then decided to get serious and build something that was a little more adjustable. You load it up with plates and then you just carry it on your back. I go from anywhere from 600 to 1,000 pounds. I think the most I've had on it was 1,100. In plates, I probably have almost 1,000 pounds. Yeah, you just pick it up and you go for a run. Yeah, this one's just a frame. Typically my event that I hate the most, having small hands, you drop it a lot. And then I got these farmer's walk tanks. from an old strongman guy. He just let me have them and kind of souped them up with loading pins. I don't know, I've never really liked using them, but they work. Or empty oxygen tanks. Mostly just welding and kind of fabricating stuff. Can make, well, you also learn how to build Atlas stones. This one I just made, it's 400 pounds. You can buy these molds. They just piece together. And you fill your concrete in the top. I just have the one mold, whereas you can buy anywhere from 8-inch ones to 24-inch ones. I think the 24 would be like 600 pounds. I don't know if anyone's ever lifted that heavy. Typically, you'll see 400 will be the heaviest in a show. And then I also have 350, 320, 185, and then a 270. You put a special tacky on, and then you stick to the stones. And if I don't feel like doing that, I'll just train kegs instead. But stones, you need, some guys used to go just no tacky on, but now everyone uses tacky and you pretty much just stick to the stone. But it's kind of a pain in the ass to get off. You either gotta use WD-40 or baby oil. I think my first keg was this 300 one, and then I have a 181. And when I first started, I could only lift a 181 over my head once, and now I'm doing 275 to 300 pounds over my head. When I first started, it was really hard technique, but after a lot of years, you pick up on it. It gets pretty easy. I don't know, you just kind of brace like you would in a deadlift, and you pick it to your lap. And the key is to get your outer arm as far forward as you can, and then wind this one. And then you want to be very explosive at your hips. I think one of the next things I built was this log. I need to build a bigger diameter one, but usually these would probably cost anywhere from $500 to $800 if you were to buy one. So it helps out when you can just build stuff like that. The log, when you have it, it's way out in here, whereas a bar is in closer. So if you're not perfectly balanced with the log, it's gonna fall forward and you're gonna drop it. Whereas a barbell, it would go more upright. These tires are probably the most handy thing I've built. Can drop stuff on them and never wreck the floor. Chains I'd probably usually use for loading up the Husafell stone or my power stairs implements. Just a 2-inch solid bar where you can load plates on it. You can use it for deadlifting, mostly just overhead pressing because it's so hard to clean them, they don't spin. And then I got these. I bought a 20-foot length of solid round rod from a scrap place, and then I had to buffer it all clean, weld the collars, and then I took it to a machine shop, did the ends so they'd fit on any size plate. This is a sandbag and they are not fun. But seems like they're showing up more and more in competitions. Most of them are usually the ones in competitions are 220 or 250. So I loaded this one to 280 just so I could be a little more used to heavier weight. There's 2 ways to do it. You can flip them down and just pick them up, or you can flip them this way and then pick them and go. I like this implement, but I've never had it in a show before. So maybe one day I'll host my own show and have it in there. It's a Husafell stone, but you can load it with plates or chains. Usually they're just made out of concrete, but I wanted to make one where I could start with a lower weight and then add whatever I wanted. Just a big hollow thing. This is the one I made out of a welding table. Just load it with plates, chains if you want. Carry it. I think I've had this loaded to 400 is the heaviest I've carried it. Most of the time, rather train by myself, I find like I focus on the task at hand better. Whereas with your buddies or something, you're not really, you're just kind of goofing around. Same as with going to other gyms. I find I get more when I just train with my own equipment. You always know the weights, everything, and just kind of, things aren't foreign to you. I kind of am lucky to have the ability to keep all this stuff and make all this stuff, whereas people would be a little jealous that I have all this, but if you want something, you just kind of go for it. Next competition that I'll be training for is the Western Canadian middleweight. Nothing seems too heavy. There's a few events that aren't in it that I wish are in it, but that's the name of the game. You just go and do what you gotta do. When I find out what events are in the competition coming up,
There's Nolan. Holy cow.
I will usually train only 3 days a week, and each day I pick 2 events that I just really focus on. And I don't really do too many accessory movements, just kind of focus on the events that are coming up. Whereas like if I got, say, Atlas stones and deadlift, I'll do that on one day and just mainly focus on that. Just work up week to week on technique and then get a little heavier as time goes. If I had to pick my own show where all the events suited me, it'd be 2 deadlift events, 2 overhead events, and maybe a carry event. There wouldn't be any grip. So this is my gym, and this is everything I use to train, and this is all my heavy stuff. If you'd like to see me lift more heavy stuff, you can follow me on Instagram. It's Nolan_Sauve.